Good evening, everyone, and welcome as we join you on a fabulous Sunday like today. We are at home, so I thought it's an ideal day for us to do a date with Danu. It's a virtual, maintaining social distancing kind of a date with Danu. Would like to say a big thank you to our sponsors. A big thank you to Quantum, not forgetting Man in Checks, our friends from Jonathan Studios, Movenpick Hotel, British Cosmetics, and Vikramarachi Optician. Someone who had a great vision when he started off this youth movement called Sri Lanka Unites, which I'm sure you would have heard about, and also now branched out to Global Unites, where lots of young leaders across the world are coming together in creating awareness about togetherness and peace. With me, I have a friend and also someone who I've known for quite some time. I have worked with him in his mission to help Sri Lanka unite and see united Sri Lanka, where it will not be divided by unwanted political interference. And to do that, there's no other better way but to change the mind of the youth. And doing that well has been Prashan Visser. Hi, Prashan.
Hi, Danu. Good to be with you.
Good to have you as well. It's amazing how I wanted to speak to you. And the reason why I wanted to talk to you is the fact that when we do get on social media, we see so much about youth making the attempt to change, youth making the attempt to voice out, or even be rebellious about things that are not right. Tell me about your start. What was the dream behind starting Sri Lanka Unites?
Well, I really believe that youth have the potential to transform their societies because they're not so attached to how things are, and they're willing to tear things down and rebuild things all over again. Especially when there are a lot of injustices in society, a lot of divisions in society. I think a youthful age is the perfect time to start. And so, as a young person, but the danger is when I was a young person, you also could go the other way. You could be influenced to do things that are destructive to society, destructive to yourself. And I was in that place where when I saw the violence in the country, the suicide bombing and all that, I was tempted to become hateful and violent and be destructive to myself and to the country. But fortunately for me, I had good mentors and I had friendships across ethnic lines that helped me see that maybe there's a better way to go about it. Maybe we can help bring people together and be intelligent. I think we were not intelligent as a generation before in dealing with our ethnic issues and political issues. But if we can intelligently discuss issues, then there's a better chance of seeing progress. So that was the beginning of Sri Lanka Unites. What if we can invest in young people, mentor them to make better decisions than our parents' generation so that our children will inherit something better?
All right. So Sri Lanka Unites has spoken to, for now, I think over 5,000 students across the country.
Just for Future Leaders conferences alone, in the last 13 years, 5,000 students, but we estimate 1 million students have been at our programs nationwide in the last 13 years.
All right. This is considering the Future Leaders Conference that happens, even the trips that you all have taken across the island, speaking about togetherness. So that's lots of people. And that's, of course, a database where they are going to see this country in a new light. It may not. So how soon do you think this transition happens? Now, I remember being a part of the first conference that was back in 2009, and that was just before the war ended. And it was just very raw, everything was very raw. People did see there was tension. As much as the youth would like to think, oh, we are all okay, there was always that diversity. Okay, they're from the north, we are from the south. Okay, can we trust a Tamil? Can we trust a Muslim? There's always an issue like this. How do you think it has changed after the war has been put to end?
Unfortunately, we still have a long way to go. When you take 30 years of violent conflict and then even longer period of tensions, to heal those wounds, to regain trust again, it's going to take a long time. But at the same time, there are some issues of injustice and hurt that some people are still trying to get over. And so in a context like that, it's not easy for us to say that we've made a lot of progress yet. But the good news is younger people are better at making that transition, at building those bridges. Because I've been amazed, children whose parents were fighting for the LTTE and children whose parents are fighting for the government are more likely to be able to talk to each other than the parents themselves. And not only talk, but they understand each other, be respectful to each other. So in that sense, this generation has a better shot at it. And so we are vouching on that capacity.
Okay. Our country celebrated years, a few days ago, the end of the war, and everyone was quite remembering. You know, I always say ending the war is just one part. The whole factor of peace is something that we have to work on every single day. And tell me, when you see Sri Lanka, there's always been this ethnicity-based issues that have been propping up throughout the times before us, even now. And however much one person tries to work towards ending it, there's always another person that brings it up. Where do you think this stems from? Is it our education system? Is it the society? Is it the way we are brought up? Where is it stemming from?
I think it's a great question, and that's the best way to approach a problem, is asking what's the root cause? What's the real issue here? Because sometimes we're all distracted by the smoke and the fights and the violence, but we don't know what's happening beneath that. And so when we've done our research and after 13 years of engaging on this issue, we've found out a few key issues. Is Sri Lanka is very segregated as a society. You know, I always say this, that over 70% of Sri Lankan youth don't have a friend outside their ethnicity or their religion. But every single one of them have an opinion about the other, as if they're experts about that ethnicity, that religion. And they are very distrustful and fearful of the other. And so they'll do anything, even if it's unjust, they feel it's justified to do it because those people don't deserve the same rights that you deserve. And so even in our education system, there are 10,000 plus schools under the Ministry of Education. Only 112 schools have Sinhala and Tamil medium under the same roof. And so over 10,300 schools are only Sinhala medium or only Tamil medium. So they don't engage. So you're easily manipulated to believe those guys are bad. Now, in fact, I went to one of those 112 schools. I had a Tamil medium class just next to me. I just knew 5 or 6 guys from the Tamil medium class. 2 of them were prefects, 2 of them played cricket with me, and 2 of them were in the choir. Apart from that, I knew nothing. And even I was manipulated to believe, oh, maybe every Tamil or maybe at least every northern Tamil should not be trusted. Now, today, I consider you a very close friend. And if I went by the hatred that I had as a 15-year-old or 16-year-old, you were an enemy to me. You're from Jaffna.
Yeah.
I couldn't trust you. That's what I was told. Not my parents. My parents didn't tell me anything like that, but it was just society. So that's the issue. We have to meet young people at an early age and give them a broader worldview. Otherwise, we're always going to be a poor country fighting each other for nothing. And we continue to lose while other countries race past us economically and socially.
All right. You know, this COVID-19 lockdown made a lot of people think about a lot of things. And we have spent lots and lots of time on social media during this time. Social media is such a huge weapon that either goes well or goes against lots of things that we are trying to build or even destroy. How has social media worked for Sri Lanka Unites? Especially if you do remember the hate speeches that were circulating at one time, especially the problems that were sort of popping up in Kandy and areas like that where it was against our Muslim brothers and sisters. So there were issues like this that were cropping up, and social media carried a lot of hate speeches, and at one time social media just got banned in our country. How have you all guided as an organization to use social media to its fullest capacity for the good?
Yeah. So initially we felt we had an amazing opportunity because social media helped us. We brought kids from Jaffna and Matra and all across the country, all 25 districts. They met each other at a conference, but then their friendships continued virtually on social media. They saw each other's lives. They celebrated each other's birthdays. They understood each other's cultures. You know, Tamil Hindus were wishing Buddhists on Vesak and Muslims wishing Christians. So they continue to do life together. So that was a huge opportunity for a country that was not easily accessible for everybody, at least via social media. But the negative side is social media gives you a freedom of expression, but it also gives you a freedom of reach. So some crazy guy who may not have many friends or many followers, lives a very lonely life, has a reach of a large audience, and they can stoke the hate and the insecurity of other people. And so there were people like that, there were organizations like that, there were politicians like that, who tried to create a new tension now across Muslim and Sinhala lines. And so we saw that far in starting 2012 with Arugam, and then time and time again, it started getting worse. So what we did is get young people to now counter that. When you see evil, when you see misinformation, when you see hate being shared online, if you are quiet, you are part of the problem. So you have to speak up against it, you have to expose that's wrong, and you can also work with Facebook to bring that content down. So today Sri Lanka United works very closely with Facebook as a partner to monitor hate speech and to try and take that kind of content down, because these people don't deserve the reach that they're getting. And so that's important that we all play a role in that.
All right. So for those who are wondering who Prashan is, and if you have not heard about him, at least you would have heard about his work. There are so many kids who have become ambassadors to this brand called Sri Lanka Unites within school levels. But let's speak about Global Unites. It has been a big step for Sri Lanka to associate with other countries and using a Sri Lanka formula in other countries. So tell me about your start to that and how many countries have come together.
Yeah, that's been an amazing honor for us. We just started working to respond to Sri Lanka's issue. But then we started getting requests on social media saying, we'd like to come visit you guys. We are from Congo, we are from Kenya, or we are from Afghanistan. Can you come and watch what you're doing? And so we said, why don't you come? We'll learn from each other, because they were trying to do similar work. And what we saw was, in a lot of our countries, we have similar issues, where there's been ethnic tensions, religious tensions, in the midst of corruption and poverty, and a large population of young people who are looking for a positive way to engage. So it kind of became an organic family. And then we went and established it as a non-profit, international non-profit, as Global Unites. And today we serve in 13 nations. And
that's amazing.
Our work is endorsed and used in the ministries of education in Uganda, in Kenya, in Israel just now, and Liberia, and so on and so forth. So that's been very encouraging. So it's a Sri Lankan model, but now contextualized in other countries, and we get to work together.
All right. Now, we have seen generations have changed throughout, and I'm asking these questions from you because you have worked with the youth so much, and the way they think is something interesting for us to all understand. In terms of, even if you take pollution, if you take corruption, if you take bribery, if you take anything like injustice towards animals on the road, whatever, the youth tend to stand up today. They tend to speak, even very conscious about recycling things, or even using handloom products, or even buying things that are environmentally friendly. Do you think the generation before us had a bit of a different upbringing, or what do you think that changed from them to now for us to think differently?
Yeah, I think for a lot of young people who grew up in difficult circumstances, they feel like the solutions were not provided for them from the previous generation. So they feel like it's in my hands. I have to do something about it. And volunteerism is on the rise. A lot of people feel like I need to do something. I need to live for more than myself. We always say this at Sri Lankanites, live beyond the parameters of your selfish ambition. Just don't live for yourself. Don't live for. But if you start living for the other and thinking of the other, you are moved to action. You can't just be a talker. You have to be moved to action.
Yeah.
And so when you start, action alone won't change it. It's consistent perseverance until you start seeing change. So there are many young people who are now going beyond the talk, going to action, and beyond the action to being consistent. As that's a part of their character now. They want to see change on certain issues. That's very hopeful. And all of society, we've seen throughout history, good things have happened or transformations have come about because there have been movements where people got together and said, this has to stop. There was a generation that stood up against slavery. There was a generation that stood up against colonization. There was a generation that stood up against women not having the franchise to vote. There were generations, and they did it within like 20, 30 years spans. They changed the whole world. And it was young people who came together with one mindset to work towards it, and they saw that change. So now the question is, what will this generation do here in Sri Lanka and around the world?
Okay. What do you think has been the difficult thing convincing the youth to believe in?
When you've seen many years of failure, I'm sure we have received some sort of progress in the last 72 years, but by and large, we have failed. Economically, we're a failure. Educationally, we're very limited. And socially and culturally, politically, we've really failed. So when you see 72 years of it not working, it's hard for you to believe that you can be the generation that actually changes something. Because there are some very impressive people. But what we're trying to tell them is, listen, we've had very impressive individuals. Sri Lanka has a lot of superstars, individual players, but we haven't been very good at team. So what if there's a generation that works collectively across ethnic lines, religious lines, socioeconomic lines, works together with a common focus to bring about change? Then you can make that happen. And so that's how we're trying. But they're kind of overwhelmed. Hey, we failed for 72 years. What makes us think we can do something different now?
Okay. You know, we always want to know, we want to move on a fast pace. We want to like do things quicker. We want to do things faster. But something that has always been the same is our political approach. You know, we are still influenced by our parents. We are still influenced by, oh, we are a family that has always supported this. We are a family or we are a community that will always stick by this party, whether it's right or wrong, whoever they bring in as a candidate. But although in this fast-paced world that the youth live in, why are we slow when it comes to this element called choosing leaders? And where do you think is the pressing problem?
Yeah, I think that's along with the first challenge I was talking about, the fact that we have too many individual stars that we are still learning to work together as a team, as a nation. The other challenge is we have been crippled with our capacity to think critically, think for myself as an individual. You don't have to, we are supposed to honor and respect our parents, but you need to make your own decisions. Look at the issue, look at the facts, and you make a decision. Don't give your blind loyalty to anybody. And when you start thinking critically, you start looking at new ways of how to solve it. Now, if the way that was taught was very successful and that we have a lot of accomplishments from that generation, then we can think, okay, let's do the same. But when Einstein says, when he defines insanity as doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. So if we are insane, and as a generation, we'll continue to do the same things over and over again. We will stop and say, listen, I love my parents generation, but everything they did has not been successful. So let me think of doing differently. I owe it to them to do better than what they have, so that I can build on what they have started to see better change for the country. So that's why when I'm voting, I can't be blind anymore. You have to look at the person. Don't vote for the party, don't vote for what you think, but look at the person you're voting for, especially this election. You were talking about racism and hate and all that. There are some politicians who bank on racism and hate to get elected. So when you see them do that, don't empower them for that. You have to call them out, or the best way to call them out is vote them out of their job. You are their boss. And so you can call people out of their boss, out of their job.
When you have spoken to the youth, you and the organization representing, have there been backlashes where, for example, parents might have not liked, or maybe certain teachers might have not liked this approach of, where this togetherness was brought about, and you were kind of forced into understanding what Sri Lanka is all about, because you're brought into this Future Leaders Conference. You are there for 4 to 5 days. You are making friends with people who you don't know. How was it when you started? How was it to convince parents, teachers, schools to trust and send these students?
It wasn't easy. So obviously trust is built over time. And when they know you as individuals and as key leaders of the movement, you can talk to principals, you convince them, we have no agenda here. We just want the best for your young people to become better leaders, to have more exposure, to learn how to interact with people, the best and brightest of this country, across ethnic lines, religious lines, get to interact with each other. And so when they see that and they see the product and see how students have improved, they always become big fans of the movement. In fact, I'll never forget there was a certain principal in the East who said, I've never allowed my students to interact with people who are not from my religion and not from this region. And I was very fearful that they will go for your programs and they will lose themselves, or they will become... But I want to tell you, after 5 years, some of my best students have been students who have had a taste of what it means to be truly Sri Lankan. They have friends from across the country. They're more respectful of others. They're more passionate about serving the community. And so I believe that Sri Lanka is stronger in our diversity than us in our small role of just me and my community. And we've heard that from the south, we've heard that from the north, from the west, and that's the beauty. Diversity and the uniqueness of Sri Lanka is our superpower. That's not our kryptonite. We don't have to be fearful of our diversity. Embrace it. You will be stronger. You'll be better. And the generation that embraces that the best will be the generation that transforms this nation.
Our generation, between you and me, this era of people, we have lost, like out of my classmates, I only have 7 people in Sri Lanka. The rest are not here. And I had 42 in my class. So that says something, that we have lost some of the best youth leaders who are performing and serving and earning for other countries. What would you like to tell them?
Let me try to be polite here.
I know you had your chance. I know you had your chance.
All of us have the opportunity to leave, but it's a choice, right? And it's now, especially for me, after being a father and having my 2 sons, now it's not just a choice for myself. It's trying to think of your children. And that, I think, was a big changing point for a lot of our generation, is when they start looking at the education system, they start looking at the economy, and they look at, oh, wow, we finished the war, now we're starting another issue. So it doesn't seem stable. And they haven't seen political leaders that are really giving you great vision that they'll accomplish. So I get that. I get your insecurity and fear for your children's future and your future, so you're leaving. But the thing is, if all of us leave, who's going to fight for our country? Who's going to ensure that bad people don't continue to destroy this country? Those countries have people. You don't need to go there to serve them. And we need to build ours. And maybe we will not be as rich as we would like to be if we lived in America or Australia. It's okay. But if my children can live in a country that they can be proud of, if even those people who left will come back and say, you know what, let's build this country. We need to do that. Because we've lost so much ground because of war and violence. So we have to build back. So if you're out there and considering, I assure you life will be more challenging here. It's more inefficient here. And you're not going to make as much money here.
You are never going to drive in peace.
Yeah, it's not going to be driving peace. In fact, you will have more severe heart problems driving on the streets of Sri Lanka. But your conscience would know that you didn't give up on your country. I can live a nice life there, but if my people are transformed, for us, we are privileged, right? We can go. But there are people who can never leave. And they have been oppressed, they have been used, their poverty has been sold for political gain. There are people who are suffering from the war who are still suffering. If we also go, then who's going to be standing to try and support? And they themselves, but who will stand by them? And so that's my conviction. I feel we have to stay here. We have to fight non-violently. We have to change the country. If not, I feel our future is bleak.
When I did go through, I just typed in Sri Lanka Unites after a very long time on Facebook. And it was amazing to see the lineup of so many pages coming up. Sri Lanka Unites Australia, there is Sri Lanka Unites the US, there's so many other countries. Then you have Sri Lanka Unites from different schools and different regions. When you all have interacted with Sri Lankans living in other parts of the world who have collected funds for lots of great projects in Sri Lanka and contributed so much, what do they say about Sri Lanka today?
Yes, so for many of them, they've gone and they're very much part of those cultures now. I've enjoyed going and meeting our Sri Lankan teams in Toronto, in London, in Melbourne, and DC, and places like that. And when we go there, they're very much part of that culture, but they still love the country. As hard as they work, as much money as they make, they'll never be Americans. They'll never be Australians. Yes, legally they are, but their heart is here. So there's a desire to want to give back. There's a desire to want to come back. But for some of them, it just seems impossible. And so what we need to do is create the atmosphere where it becomes a little less risky, a little more attractive, a little more clearer in vision for them to want to leave all that and say, I'll come. And there are a lot of people who I believe will come when they feel the confidence of the country is heading in the right direction and they need to pull their weight. Then they'll be here. But until then, that's not a risk that they'd like to take.
Yeah. And now, when you decided to come back to Sri Lanka and do this, I know you have said this to me many a times. Lots of people said you're stupid. I just said it again, just
for many reasons.
And life is not easy when when a paycheck is not guaranteed, when even doing this is not guaranteed. How did you convince yourself?
Yeah, so firstly, obviously I studied here, did my A-levels here, and just applied to a few universities in the States, and I got a full scholar. So I was like, okay, there's an opportunity. If I go to university here at the time, there were so many strikes, and you're not guaranteed you'll graduate in the time you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And so I thought maybe it's a good opportunity. I went to the States. But then I was alarmed at how many people went from Sri Lanka and other countries abroad, and they never came back.
No.
The system there is also made in a way, if you're doing well in university, you get a good job. Immediately after you graduate, you get a visa to work 1 year, and after that, you can just make your way there. And so it's very tempting. I was tempted. I was working in Washington, D.C. in Capitol Hill. I was set to work on foreign policy on Capitol Hill, the Senate there. But then I thought, no, I need to go home. I have to go home, and I had this vision for Sri Lanka Unites. And when I told my parents, they're like, wait, so who's going to pay you for this? I said, no, I'm going to do it by myself.
Nobody's paying me.
No one's paying me. So I had some money that I had saved. I said, I came, and for the first 6 months, we started Sri Lanka Unites with that money. And no guarantees of any support, but we did it. And it's 13 years now, and now we're a global movement, and we have 72 full-time staff. Sri Lanka Unites and Global Unites. It's been amazing from having nothing, but we live with a pure intention. Even if nobody paid us, we were going to do it. And they didn't. For many years, we didn't have any support. I was doing 4 jobs at one time, 4 jobs to pay the bills, and Sri Lanka Unites full-time.
Yeah.
We didn't sleep for many months and many years. But we have to make a sacrifice. Our country deserves better. And we may not be the most talented people in the world, but if you have heart and you're willing to be honest and transparent and work hard, I think people will come alongside and support you. And that's what we've seen.
Do you see in another 30 years' time Sri Lanka changing its mindset?
I'm hopeful. And to that end, we're working. We have this dream now. We're calling it like at 100 years of independence, 2048. Can we celebrate Sri Lanka with so much pride, saying, no regrets, we have accomplished a lot of things. We are a model for the world. That the whole world stops and says, wow, Sri Lanka came out of conflict, they fixed their problems, they united, and they're a model for how to come out of war. They're a model for how to come out of poverty and corruption and inefficiency. So that decision is ours. There will be no generation to blame but ours, because I'm 35 now, you're 34, we'll be in our 60s. By then, if we see change, it's because we worked hard. If we don't see change, it's because we quit. So it's up to us.
What puzzles me, Prashan, is the fact that, when there is a national crisis, when there is a flood, when there is tsunami, when there are issues like this that prop up, our country comes together. They don't care what language you speak, what religion you are from, who you are praying to. They will give you their house, their heart, their clothes, everything. But why? At the same time, it's so easy to spoil the minds and say, divide them, separate them, label them, brand them, and segregate them. Why is it so easy? Because we have both sides. I can understand if we were just one kind of people.
Unfortunately, evil and negativity is easier to spread. It's a virus that you'll catch much faster. And it's the virus that's been killing us and the world for much longer than Corona. And there is no vaccine that can ever be created for that. But what we can be hopeful of is, like you said, Sri Lankans are some of the most generous people in the world. Whether you go to the north or whether you go to the south. I've gone to some of the poorest huts in Mulativ, and they've treated me with everything they've had, even when I said no, I don't. And I've just experienced the same in Hambantota or in these. Our people are extremely beloved people. And anybody will fall in love with them. But our problem is, when the going gets tough and we feel like, oh, I'm insecure about that community now. Because we still don't have this us picture. It's still a me, my community, my religion, my ethnicity. We don't have an inclusive Sri Lankan identity picture yet. And because of that, it's hard for us to focus our attention in the same direction. And so that's what we have to create. Bring that amazing, beautiful, generous hearts to be fighting for the same team, to be shooting in the same direction. And then we'll be an unstoppable force for the world. a positive force for good. In fact, our nation will be one of the most generous nations the world has ever seen. And so we just need to learn to channel that in the right direction. But we need leaders who would help us to think beyond my ethnicity, beyond my religion, beyond my social class, and start thinking of a greater Sri Lanka for a greater humanity. And that requires leaders who are willing to call people out. Because normally when you know people are racist, you'll be even more racist to get elected. But if you're a true leader, you will lead them to what's right, not where they're going. And so we need leaders like that, and that has to come from our generation.
You know, something that I've always wondered is whenever there is politics involved or when there's elections involved, it's always categorized. They always say, you know, the Sinhala votes, the Tamil votes, the Jaffna Tamil votes, the Colombo Tamil votes. Then you have the Christian votes. Then you have the Catholic votes. I always wonder, when would it just be votes? You know, every single thing just gets labeled, and it's always so easy to keep it going that way. Prashan's work has been well recognized in many ways than one. I have to say it here while we're here. His work was even recognized by the Queen, the second ever to win or be recognized by the Queen for the work that he has done after Kushal Gunasekara. Tell me about your, what can I say, how you were recognized by the Queen.
I'm not exactly sure how it happened. I thought it was a prank.
I'm telling you, she is looking at you. She is.
Yes. I didn't know that she was following us on social media. No, I just received a call from the High Commissioner, from the British High Commission, and I thought it was a prank call. I thought it was one of my friends. So I thought it was you. You know, you tend to do prank calls all of a sudden. But just said, you know, we appreciate the work you've done, the work the movement has done. So I accepted it on behalf of a youth generation that has been doing this work. You know, it's not an individual, it's a collective of an amazing Sri Lanka Unites family that's been working. And it was great to be recognized, and we're using that momentum to serve more. You know, if people don't know who we are, if they don't know what we did, that's perfectly fine. But as long as in the next decade or 2-3 decades, if the country changes and we know in our hearts that we had a lot to do with it behind the scenes, and if nobody knows, that's fine. Our goal is the country has to change. And we don't need our accolades for that, we don't need recognition for it, but I definitely want the country to change. And that's what this is about.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so very much for talking to us. And for those who are watching, you know, during these times, we have spent a lot of time on social media. And one of the reasons why we wanted to bring these type of conversations on social media is the fact that while you surf for these as well, because it gives you an insight to what is being done to change the curve that has always been a curve and never flat. You know, we always need to work towards this. So then Corona will be nothing. Even Corona was made into a religious ethnic barrier at one time. So I think we need to fight against it. But Prashan, thank you so much for joining me today. As always, it's a privilege to know that there are people like you who do what you do.
Right back at you. That helps us know that we're not alone, and there are so many good people in this country. We just need to be focused on the same goals, and we will see change.
Brilliant. Thank you so very much. For those who are watching, please follow Sri Lanka Unites, Global Unites. You'll get an idea of what they do and the work that they do. You can take a look at it. And you can contribute in many ways. It could be a volunteer. It could be a skill that you have. It could just be the fact that you want to promote peace. All of this is welcome in their movement. So go ahead, join. There's so much that you can do. Is there an age limit nowadays for Sri Lanka Unites, Prashan, considering the fact that you have jumped it?
No, so basically, members are below 30. You know, people. It's mainly for young people, mainly below 30. But we have advisors, volunteers, people coming in from all age groups. In fact, Ambassador Jayanth Dhanapala is still the chairman of our board of trustees, and he's up there, maybe in his 80s. So he was
yeah. So that's great. That's great. But Sri Lanka considers even 40 youth, by the way.
Yeah, we don't. We cut it at 30.
Fine. I am living on that hope. You know, I'm living that hope in my head. I'm like, Sri Lanka, you are considered youth till you're 40. So have a lot.
We had a minister of youth who was way above 60 in this country. So that's part of the problem. So we have to
Yeah.
let the next generation take their space.
Definitely. All right. Thank you so very much for joining us. Take care, Prashan. Have a good one.
Thank you, Danu. Thanks for talking.
Take care. Bye.
You too.
So it's always important for us to keep in mind, sometimes change can just begin when you don't expect it the most. People have contributed their time, effort. I've worked with this group of people, and I still do in ways that I can. It's always amazing to see the amount of young leaders who come forward to see a better Sri Lanka, and I think they are the real heroes. They are the heroes who want a good, safe, balanced country that will go forward. So keeping that in mind, I have to take my leave today. Tomorrow we are back to normal with work. Be safe. We'll catch you with another quarantine special with one of our Date with Danus. That'll be over a long weekend. Long weekend at home. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll catch you with some more episodes. Until then, you have yourself a great day, and thank you so much for joining us on Daily Mirror. Stay safe. Be blessed.